Christmas at my mother's house had always been loud, warm, and full of the kind of chaos that made it feel alive. But that year, something felt different the moment I stepped through the door. The lights were bright, the tree was decorated perfectly, the table was set with Mom's finest china, but underneath it all, there was a tension I couldn't quite name. I pushed the feeling aside and tried to enjoy the evening. I handed out the gifts I'd bought after working overtime for weeks. Mom gave me a tight smile before setting my present aside, barely glancing at it. Liam and his wife had arrived an hour earlier, filling the house with their usual smugness. My younger sister Chloe chatted nervously, her eyes darting between us like she already knew what was about to happen. Dinner began quietly at first. Forks clinked against plates, Christmas music played softly in the background. But then Mom cleared her throat once, then twice the way she always did when she was about to say something dramatic. "Before we continue," she said, folding her napkin neatly, "I need to make an announcement." Everyone looked up. Even Liam stopped chewing. My stomach tightened. She looked straight at me. "Ethan, I've updated my will." I blinked, unsure where this was going. "And you're no longer included." Silence, stunned, heavy, suffocating silence. I stared at her, trying to understand whether I'd heard correctly. "I'm not on the will anymore. I finally managed." Mom nodded, as if discussing the weather. "I've decided everything will go to Liam. He has a family, responsibilities. You're still figuring things out, sweetie. It just makes sense." Liam smirked across the table, not even hiding it. A burn spread through my chest, shock first, then a deep, painful ache. I had expected maybe an argument, maybe criticism, but not this. Not public humiliation disguised as a practical decision. Chloe looked horrified, opening her mouth as if to speak, but Mom shot her a warning glance that made her shrink back. I swallowed hard. "You could have told me privately," I said quietly. Mom shrugged. "This is a family matter. Everyone deserved to know. Everyone except the one actually being cut out, apparently." I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of every sacrifice I had ever made staying home after Dad died, paying bills when Mom couldn't, putting aside job opportunities to be there for her. Years of devotion, erased in one sentence. Without another word, I walked to the Christmas tree, picked up the present I had placed there for her, a small box wrapped in silver paper, and set it beside her wine glass. "This was for you," I said softly, "but it feels different now." No one stopped me. No one apologized. I walked out into the cold December night, leaving behind the house that no longer felt like home. The first night after I walked out, I barely slept. I lay awake in the tiny room I rented with the last of my savings, staring at the cracked ceiling and replaying every second of the dinner. My mother's words echoed louder than any winter storm outside. "You're no longer included." Like I was nothing more than a name she could erase with a pen. I kept wondering what I had done so wrong. I wasn't perfect, but I had always been there. When Dad got sick, it was me who stayed home. When Mom cried herself to sleep for months, it was me who held her. When the house needed repairs, when bills piled up, when she needed a ride to the doctor, I was there. Not Liam, never Liam. Yet he was the one who got everything. By the third day, anger had settled into a deep, numbing hurt. I didn't expect answers, but I got one anyway when my Aunt Mom's older sister called me out of the blue. "Ethan, I heard what happened," she said softly, "and I'm so sorry." I swallowed hard. "Do you know why?" She hesitated, then sighed. "Your mother didn't decide this on her own. Liam convinced her." My chest tightened. Convinced her how? "He told her you're unfocused, that you depend too much on her, that you would waste whatever she left behind." Her voice trembled. "Your mother believed him. She said giving everything to him was the responsible choice." I felt the words like a punch to the gut. "A burden, a dependent, someone who wouldn't amount to anything. He's been whispering things to her for months," my aunt continued. "Every time you were late to a gathering, every time you changed jobs, every mistake you ever made." He twisted it. "She's too easily influenced when it comes to him. Because he was the golden child. Because money talks. Because she preferred the child who shined on the outside rather than the one who stayed quietly loyal." After the call ended, I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at my hands, hands that had fixed her car, painted her walls, wiped her tears, held this family together when no one else would, and yet those same hands were now considered useless. That night something inside me broke, but something else awakened, a slow, bitter clarity. I had built my entire life around trying to be enough for a family that had already chosen who mattered and who didn't. Their silence at the dinner table was no accident. They had made their decision long before I walked out. And for the first time in my life, I realized maybe it was time to stop trying to win a family that had already betrayed me. A new chapter, painful but necessary, was beginning. The first few weeks after learning the truth were the hardest. Grief has a strange way of disguising itself, sometimes as anger, sometimes as exhaustion, sometimes as a hollow ache you can't put into words. I felt all of it at once. My mother's betrayal clung to me like winter frost, refusing to melt. But slowly, without planning to, I started rebuilding. I found a job at a small cafe that needed extra help for the holiday season. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. The customers were kind, the staff even kinder, and for the first time in months, I felt seen, not judged, not compared, simply appreciated. Little victories began to replace the pain. One morning, the cafe owner pulled me aside. "You work hard, Ethan. Ever consider staying on permanently?" Permanent. A word I hadn't heard in a while. I accepted. With a stable income, I was able to move into a better apartment. It was small, with faded blue walls and a creaky floor, but it felt like mine. I painted the walls, added cheap furniture, hung up string lights, and slowly transformed the space into a home. A real home, built by my own hands. Weeks turned to months. The pain didn't disappear, but it softened. I started jogging in the mornings, listening to music instead of my mother's voice in my head. I made new friends, people who didn't know anything about my family or my past. I laughed more, slept better, and began to understand something important. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is choosing yourself. Life continued surprising me. The cafe owner introduced me to a friend of hers who worked at a marketing agency. One interview later, I joined their team as a junior assistant. My creativity flourished. I climbed the ladder faster than I ever imagined. Promotions came. Opportunities came, and with every new step forward, the grip of my family's judgment loosened. I even fell in love, quietly, cautiously, with someone who saw worth in every part of me that others had overlooked. They listened, they understood, they held space for the wounds I was still healing. Life was not perfect, but it was mine. In the background, though I tried not to care, news about my family reached me through relatives. Liam's business had started falling apart, a lawsuit, mismanaged funds, bad decisions catching up. Mom's finances were tightening too. Her perfect golden child was not so perfect after all. For years, she had relied on me for strength. When she cut me off, she cut off the stability she never realized came from me. And that was the quietest revenge of all, not hurting them, just letting the truth reveal itself. For the first time in a long time, I was building a life without needing their approval, or their inheritance. I was finally rising. 3 years passed before my mother reached out again. It was early December when I received her message. Short, uncertain, "Ethan, please come home for Christmas. We need to talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. Time had softened the wound, but seeing her name still sent a ripple through my chest. She hadn't contacted me once, not for my birthdays, not for my promotions, not even to ask if I was alive. But now she needed me. Part of me wanted to ignore the message. Another part, the part that still remembered the warmth of childhood, said yes. Christmas Eve, I pulled up to the old house. The porch lights flickered. The paint had faded. The place looked tired, almost fragile, like it knew it had lost something important. Mom opened the door. She looked older, smaller, like life had shrunk her down. "Ethan," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Inside, the dinner table was set, but not in the grand way it used to be. Liam sat stiffly at the far end, his shoulders tense. He looked nothing like the confident man who once smirked as Mom erased me from the will. His eyes were hollow, defeated. Mom cleared her throat. "Things have been difficult," she said. Liam's business, she trailed off, tears threatening again. I heard, I answered calmly. She nodded slowly. I made a terrible mistake, Ethan. I listened to the wrong person. I pushed away the one child who was always there for me. Her voice broke. I want to fix it. I want you back in the will, back in the family. For a moment, silence hung between us. I reached into my coat and pulled out a small silver-wrapped box, the same one I had left behind years ago. I placed it on the table in front of her. This was the last gift I tried to give you. I said, the night you decided I didn't deserve to be part of the family. Her hands shook as she unwrapped it. When she saw the bracelet, the heart engraved with "To the woman who gave me everything," she covered her mouth and sobbed. I don't deserve your forgiveness, she whispered. I took a slow breath. Maybe not, but I forgive you anyway. Her head jerked up in shock. I've built a good life. I continued gently, a happy one. I'm not here for the inheritance. I don't need anything from you, Mom. Not anymore. Liam stiffened, shame washing over his face. I stood buttoning my coat. I hope you both find your way. Truly. Mom reached for my hand, but I stepped back kindly, not coldly. Some doors close for a reason, I said softly, and some people learn to walk forward. As I left the house and stepped into the snowy night, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. My revenge had never been wealth or power. It was walking away healed, while they finally saw what they lost.